Welcome to today's class. I have just written a new ebook for a TV show called Line of Duty. There are already several seasons out for this TV show. I've written an ebook for season 1. I'm a big fan of learning a language using the TV. I don't really like TV other than for learning languages, but it is fantastic for improving your knowledge of a second language or even a first language. So I write the ebooks, I write vocabulary, grammar and comprehension exercises, and I make these videos as well as supplementary material. You know, I make these videos to complement those ebooks. So here we're going to look at some phrasal verbs. There's some very good vocabulary in this TV show, and a lot of words which are perhaps not very clear or not very obvious to a lot of students. So we're going to look at these phrasal verbs, and I wanted to tell you that in episode 1, this is all just from episode 1. I'm going to make lessons for episodes 2, 3, 4 and 5, which are all in the ebook. It's about 20 pages long, and in episode 1 I look at conditionals, and perhaps I'll ask you some questions using conditionals and this vocab as well to consolidate the vocabulary. And if anybody's interested in buying this ebook, then click on the link. I'll put it up here and you'll go straight through to my website and you can buy the PDF from my website. And if anyone has any problems buying that PDF, just get in touch with me and I'll make sure that you get that PDF. Don't worry, I can see if you've made the payment or not. So the first phrasal verb is to mistake someone for. This is quite a clear one, I think, but it's when you make a mistake and you think that someone is somebody else. So if somebody mistakes you for a doctor, they think you're a doctor, but you're not a doctor. Or perhaps somebody mistakes you for a German guy, I mean. They hear your accent and they think it's similar to a Germanic accent, but perhaps you're not German, perhaps you're Austrian. And so they mistake you for a German person. So that's quite a clear one, but you should also remember to take someone for, because it's related. If you say, "What do you take me for?" and it's very often used like that, it very often means, do you take me for a fool? Do you perceive me to be a fool? Do you think I am a fool? So there is this phrasal verb as well, don't forget it. Now if you crack open a bottle of champagne or if you crack open a beer, this literally means to open, so it's a very easy one as well, but I thought it was a nice natural way of saying open a bottle of something, because we do use it very often. So you could crack open a bottle of wine. I don't know if anybody cracked open any alcohol over the weekend, but it was a bank holiday weekend here and it was beautiful weather, so I think a lot of people cracked open wine, champagne, that kind of thing. Okay, to put away. Now, of course, this does mean to tidy up. If you say put away your clothes, it means tidy up your clothes. And if somebody is put away for 10 years, that means that they've gone to prison. So when somebody is put away, it could mean that they've gone to prison as well. But we also use this phrasal verb meaning to consume, especially in great amounts. And so in this episode of Line of Duty, the policewoman said, oh, she was putting it away last night, and she meant she was drinking loads of alcohol. And so this put away, it could mean consume or imbibe a large quantity of alcohol or food, but very often it is for alcohol. If you say he was putting them away last night, it could mean beers. He was putting away a lot of beers. But yeah, we usually just say he was putting it away last night or putting them away last night. And that would mean consuming a lot. Okay, a tip-off is when you tell the police that somebody is guilty of something. So it's when you inform on someone. You tip the authorities off. You turn that person over to the police. There are a lot of phrasal verbs here for similar things. Grass on someone, grass someone up, rat on someone, snitch on someone. There are loads. And a tip-off is the phrasal verb, it's a noun that comes from the phrasal verb to tip off the authorities. Okay, to cover up a crime or usually some kind of conspiracy is covered up. So in this TV show, it's about corruption among police officers, and of course those corrupt police officers, they would like to cover up their bad deeds. They don't want to come clean, and to come clean means to be honest. Don't forget the phrasal verb to open up here, which just means to start telling someone the truth. But it's not exactly the same as come clean. Come clean is when you've done something terrible and in the end you put your hands up and admit it. You confess. You come clean. Open up is usually when somebody is too shy, when they've clammed up, when they're too shy to say something, but in the end you manage to make them relax and they start to open up. So that is different. Okay, to bottle it. I thought this was a great expression. It comes from the phrasal verb to bottle out. Now, the policeman just said, don't bottle it, go to the police and come clean about your crimes. He was talking to his girlfriend and he knew that she was responsible for some really bad, really terrible crimes. And he told her, don't bottle it, don't chicken out, don't bottle out, don't be too scared to go and do this. So don't bottle out, don't be too scared, go to the police station and come clean about your crimes. So this bottle out or chicken out, it always means to be too afraid to do something, to not do something because you're not brave enough to do it. Okay, to be on to someone. If you are a criminal and the police are on to you, that means that they know that you're up to no good. They know that you're getting up to something. They know that you're doing something suspicious and they are on to you. Maybe they have started to follow you around, or maybe they're driving and parking outside your house to keep an eye on you because they are on to you. So when you are onto something, you are about to discover very often a crime, but it could even be a scientific discovery here. You might say, oh, that scientist is doing a lot of experiments concerning optics. I think he's onto something. And it means he's following the right path. He's on the right track. It's exactly the same as on the right track. Yeah, exactly the same as on the right track, going in the right direction, yeah? And so if the police are onto you, though, it means they're on the right track about your crimes. Okay, to get off on the wrong foot. This just means to start a relationship badly. Perhaps you meet your, perhaps you meet your brother-in-law for the first time, and unfortunately you get off on the wrong foot, and it just means there's some kind of misunderstanding that takes place. Could be crossed wires or something like that. You get your wires crossed. Maybe you're just not on the same wavelength, but you get off on the wrong foot and you both end up disliking each other right from the start. But this does sound like, you could start again and make the situation better. So if you do get off on the wrong foot, it is still possible to get to know that person better and realise that you were wrong, that you made a mistake, or that you mistook him for someone who he isn't. Okay, to tap into a resource, usually, it means to exploit a new flow of something for money, for profit. Yeah, so if you tap into the mineral resources in a region, that means you literally create some kind of mine and then exploit the resources in that area and tap into all of the oil or gas, or it could be something else. It could be metals, it could be aluminium, and you're tapping into that resource, that natural resource, and making profit. But you could also tap into a new market. Maybe you go into a new city and you realise that there's a lot of young people who are interested in a particular product, and you tap into that particular market segment. In other words, you exploit that particular market segment. I can't remember how it was used here. I think it was the drug dealers were tapping into a new market, but I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly, but it certainly means exploit for profit. Now, if you muscle in on someone's business, that means you're trying to steal their business using force, violence, or aggressive tactics in some kind of way. And yeah, it was the gangsters who were muscling in on some other gangster's business. Okay, to put something on the back burner. This is an idiom which means to make something a low priority. And the idea here is it's like on a cooker, you put it on the back burner. I think that's where it's from, I'm guessing. Could be completely wrong here. But to me, the burner is the hob on a cooker. And if you put it on the back hob, I call them hobs, where the gas comes out on a cooker, it means that they're not a priority. They're a lower priority than the ones on the front burner. So if you put something on the back burner, a task or an errand, it means that you are putting it as a lower priority. You are marking it as a lower priority. Okay, to victimise, we're coming away from phrasal verbs now, just general words. If you victimise someone, then you persecute them. You single them out for cruel treatment. Good phrasal verb there. It wasn't in the show, but it's a good one. If you single someone out for bad treatment, you are bullying them. You are picking on them. So victimise is very similar to bully, but a much more formal word for it. So you could persecute or victimise or single someone out for cruel treatment. You could also comply, which means to obey. That's all. If somebody doesn't comply, they don't obey you. Now, you can also talk about prejudice. And prejudice is when you have a judgment of something earlier than you should. That's the etymology of the word. And so it's when you are biased. Another word for it would be biased. And I think we're all prejudiced, by the way. I think we're all biased. There's a lot of the time this word is used in schools to try to encourage children not to be racist, not to be sexist. Unfortunately, I think people are like that. They are biased. They do have prejudices based on their experiences, and we can use this as a verb. So a lot of the time in this TV show, they were wondering whether the anti-corruption unit was being prejudiced because they were perhaps picking on a policeman. They were singling him out, perhaps on the basis of his race. Now, of course, the anti-corruption officers didn't think so. They thought they were singling him out because of his actions, because they didn't think they were prejudiced. They thought that they had to follow this guy because he was up to no good. He was getting up to something and they were onto him. Now, when they investigated his behaviour, they found a lot of evidence to corroborate the idea that he was actually he was involved in some kind of illegal business. Now, to corroborate just means to verify or to bear out. That would be a great phrasal verb here. When they looked for evidence, the evidence bore out their ideas that this guy was a bent copper. They keep calling him a bent copper, and it means a dirty policeman. I mean a policeman who is corrupt. A bent copper is a policeman who is corrupt. So yeah, the evidence corroborated these ideas. The evidence bore out the idea that he was a bent copper. And so, of course, the anti-corruption unit had to intercede. They had to interfere. They had to get involved. To intercede, it's kind of like to interfere, but here they had to intercede. They had to get involved in this bent copper's work to find out exactly what he was up to. Now, they called him a so-and-so at some point, and a so-and-so is a polite way of referring to a very unpleasant person. So you can call someone a nasty piece of work, and it means a nasty person, but you can also say he's a nasty so-and-so. And it means so-and-so here is being used as a substitute for a much worse word, and that's why I say it's a polite way of referring to an unpleasant person. Because there are, of course, many swear words we could say instead of a so-and-so, and that's basically what it means. But you say a so-and-so so that none of the people listening have to hear you use a swear word. Okay, to give a toss about, or to give a monkeys about, or to give, and a lot of swear words about. All of these mean to be concerned about, and it's very often used in the negative. You often say, I don't give a toss about whatever. And if you don't give a toss about something, you don't care about it. It doesn't bother you at all. This is so common, I feel like you really ought to know it. Loads of people say it. It's on the TV shows all the time. So very often you'll hear the character say, oh, I don't give a toss about, in this, I think, there are lots of examples I could give you here, but the criminals clearly don't give a toss about the police, because they do all sorts of terrible things, and they don't seem concerned about the police's involvement in the investigation. So they seem very brazen, very bold, we would say, bold and brazen. They are not scared at all. They are not bottling out of their crimes at all. Okay, to steer clear of. If you steer clear of someone, you avoid them. And here, steer like steering wheel. Steer clear of the oncoming traffic, and steer clear of someone, you avoid them. Very common, that one. If you do something off the record, you do it unofficially. So quite often, perhaps a journalist is interviewing someone and they'll say, look, can you give me an answer to this question off the record, unofficially? I won't quote you on it. It will just be between you and me. Now, if someone is a zealot, they are a fanatic about something. So you could be a fanatic concerning all sorts of things. And anyone who is a zealot, they strongly believe in something, and nothing will persuade them otherwise. Okay. To cherry pick is a great word. If you're a scientist and you cherry pick the evidence, that sounds very negative, because if you're cherry picking the evidence, you're ignoring all the evidence which shows your theory to be untrue, but you're using all the evidence which backs it up, which supports your theory. So you very often hear about cherry picking the evidence. Lawyers cherry pick the evidence to defend their client. They have to, that's their job. But scientists will sometimes cherry pick the evidence because it's called confirmation bias. Yeah, they want to be confirmed, they want their ideas to be confirmed, and so they are biased, they are prejudiced. They don't treat the evidence in a neutral way, or the experimental results or whatever. They don't treat them in a neutral way, and they only use the results which back up their ideas. They cherry pick the evidence. And in this TV show, the bank copper, was accused of cherry picking the crimes so that he could get more crimes on his sheet that he had solved. So he was cherry picking the easy crimes where there were lots of crimes so that he could be seen to be a fantastic copper. Now, with these conditionals, I'll put some questions under the video, I think, where you can answer these conditional questions using some of this vocabulary, and that should help you with your conditionals. So, episode 2 will come very soon. That was just episode 1. Again, if you're interested in buying the ebook, click on the link up here. You can find Line of Duty on Netflix and other places as well, I'm sure. If you have any questions about any of this vocabulary, put them under the video, and I hope to see you all soon. Thanks for watching.